Hello and welcome to IndieFilmopolis, a podcast dedicated to indie film. I'm Pugh, a filmmaker and indie film enthusiast.
And I'm Mike Baughan, an actor, producer, director someday, and general good friend to my pal Philm Maker here.
This episode of IndieFilmopolis, we're going to be talking once more about our own low-budget flick, Worst Enemy, and then we'll go through some reviews and recommendations for films like Jordan Peele's Us, the short film Gone Fishing, and 3 low-budget features, Palacios.
That sounds right.
Okay, Good Kids and Ashes.
Very quickly before all of that, we just want to give a quick but massive shout out to our long-suffering and very patient Indiegogo followers. Thanks for sticking around. And if you found this podcast by other means, thanks for joining us, and we hope you stick around to hear the others.
Episode 9 now, believe it or not.
9?
Yep, so there's 8 others that you can check out if you'd like to. SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube.
They're all out there. Just look at IndieFilmopolis. We'll give you the details at the end of the podcast.
On to our film, Worst Enemy. Mike, do you want to give a little rundown of what Worst Enemy is?
Worst Enemy is a film about a young man called Andy.
Ooh, young. Stretching it a bit.
Thanks. I'm sitting right here. And right here, people, right here. And his imaginary friend, Mr. P, that turns up to torment him. That's the film in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And over the previous podcast, we've been talking in sections about the pre-filming, the filming days itself, and other little bits. And we've come to Worst Enemy's only exterior day that we did. The location was in South Birmingham area.
Yes.
Beautiful area. And several things just came together that day that made it a very hectic day compared to the sort of organised sectional days we used to have.
That's right. This stood in quite stark contrast. Like you said, this was our only exterior day. So the entirety of the film doesn't just take place indoors, it takes place in one inside location.
Yeah.
To get outside was actually quite exciting because visually it was very different compared to the rest of the film. And so we had this exterior location which was really tough to match because we couldn't film the exterior of where we did the interiors for many reasons, but one in particular, that the interior was actually a converted coach house and not the bungalow as scripted.
No.
As far as an interior, it looked fine.
Yeah.
But as an exterior, it just wouldn't have worked.
No, there's several places that do that. I mean, Hogwarts is filmed in about 10 different locations around the country. And this is another call out to those Indiegogo people that have put forward to this, because this was something we really wanted to put a significant amount of the budget on. This was supposed to be the great piece that we wanted at the end.
Absolutely. Even as a sort of an exterior location, it wasn't quite spot on, was it? Because what it was was we needed a bungalow, like I said, but because of how we'd filmed the interiors, we actually needed a specific
exterior. Yeah, definitely.
So it had to be a single floor bungalow or house with windows on either side of a front door.
Yeah.
Windowed rooms, on either side of a front door, which we couldn't find. But what we did find was a place with a garage, a door to the garage, and a windowed room on the other side of the garage as part of the house.
Yeah.
And so we used that, and in post we've had to mask out. You've seen it now, haven't you? We've had to mask out the house and create a sort of a fake facade on this location, but it works.
Yeah.
Incredibly tricky.
Well, I mean, how many other places have done that sort of thing? I mean, loads of places have done that.
For an indie film, though, it's
it's a big. But like you said, we wanted this to be have the ending that we wanted, including the cast.
Yes.
So we cast 2 big famous names, James and Oliver Phelps.
Yes.
They're famous from the Harry Potter films for playing the Weasley twins.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really exciting to know you'd got them for this final day.
Yes. Brummy actors, local to us.
Yeah. They even said specifically they like supporting local work and local film work out, so they were eager to do this, which was wonderful.
So how that all worked out was, fortunately, friend and producer Nigel Davey, he had some connections with James and Oliver, and essentially there were 2 policeman roles, and I'd already cast one. with someone who we've worked with before, Kari,
Yeah.
who you've worked with.
Yeah, he's
Short
an excellent
films.
actor.
And I was under the impression that one of the Phelps twins had stopped acting and wanted to go into production and
Yeah.
was doing directing and producing and things.
Yeah, he was talking about that.
So when I was talking to Nigel about it, I said, I'm pretty sure one of them doesn't act anymore. So he goes, okay, well, I'll find out which one and talk to...
That particular brother.
So he calls me up, quite excited, a few days later and said, you're not going to believe it, but James wants to do it. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic. And we had a chat about everything we needed to make work and make it happen. Then I'm pretty sure if it wasn't the same day, it was the very next day, he called me up and he goes, you're not going to believe this, but I've just had a call from Oliver and he wants to be in the film.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that's awesome, but we've only got one role. We talked it through and he was like, well, can't we make it 2 roles? And I was a bit dubious because they were policemen, I didn't want them to be twin policemen. It just would seem a bit weird. Even though it's a weird film, there needed to be, at that point, as you all know, there needed to be like a bit of normalcy.
Yeah.
And having twin policemen
Would have thrown different things to the film, yeah.
So we talked about it, and I said, well, what about if we make the one look completely different?
Yeah.
Give him a proper makeover so he's unrecognisable, and they don't play brothers, but they're just colleagues.
Yeah.
I think we might have talked about this before, but he calls up James and Oliver, and they came back to him and said, yep, love it. We really like the idea of being able to work together but not having to play brothers or twins or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was cool for them. Then there was one sticking point, low budget film. We'd budgeted this out, and I said, Nige, we have only got money to cast one person. And he was like, oh, damn. So he went back to them, and God bless them. They came back and they were quite happy to split the fee. So thanks to them, good on them.
Yeah.
And they came along and they were great.
They were great. Yeah, they was really, really respectable guys. Really pleased to work with them.
Yes, you had a nice chunky scene with them, and you the 3 of you bounced off each other really well.
Hopefully that shows in the film.
I think you've seen that scene now. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah.
I like it. I really like it. But they weren't the only stars that turned up that day.
No, in a very small cameo appearance, we have
Big Joe Egan, and we do mean Big Joe Egan. He's known from the Sherlock Holmes films. Primarily, that's where you'd recognise him from. But he's an ex-boxing champion, and he's a big lad. But when he came on set, he was as friendly as anything. I mean, he's built 7 foot by 6. This guy, he could easily block out the sun. But he's so nice, so nice. When he came on set, he went round to every cast member and every crew member that was out there, either working or just come out to see him, and he shook the hand of every single person there, introducing himself, saying he was really pleased to be there. But yeah, he was as soft as butter, really, really wonderful guy. But he had this other guy with him as well, an American guy, who turned out to be his bodyguard, and we had a nice chat. But it always surprised me that Big Joe Egan would need a bodyguard. Boxing champion, huge guy, could take down Godzilla, and he's got like this bodyguard. I mean, the bodyguard's well built, don't get me wrong, 6'2", strong looking, very professional, but half the size of Joe.
Yeah.
It always amused me a little bit that he would need one.
And that was another great casting suggestion from Nigel.
Yeah.
Because we'll get onto this in a minute, but it was supposed to be a sunny day, and what I had planned was essentially we needed some passerbys without giving too much away. And one of the passerbys I thought would be a kid with an ice cream he could drop upon looking at something that you wouldn't see every day.
Strange thing.
We just couldn't find
the ice cream.
The ice cream. Actually, that was tough. So we were struggling to find someone for that role, and then Nigel, always thinking outside the box, he said, well, what about if it's Big Joe? And he comes along, because he knows Joe, Nigel and Joe know each other. He said, what about if it's Big Joe with an ice cream instead? And I just burst out laughing. I was like, yeah, cool, that works for me.
But we had, talking about other cast members, we had cast members from Own Worst Minutes.
Own Worst
You
Minutes?
mentioned it.
You just called it
Own Worst Minutes. Talking about cast members, we had people from your previous film, 1 Minute.
Right.
Of course, there's Gary Keane, who you mentioned.
Yeah, tell us what I know what it is. Tell us what 1 minute is.
You want me to tell you?
Yes.
As in the listeners?
Yes.
That's a very clever ploy. 1 minute is a film. Is it 60 minutes long? Am I right? It's basically a 60-minute film, and each minute is a film, but it's 1 minute long. So there'll be like the Western, there'll be the drama, there'll be nods to French cinema and horror and
You were in
remakes. I was in so many I can barely remember.
Can you remember which was your
I was
favourite?
I think my favourite was my very first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
the
was?
Clockmaker's Apprentice.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Because this was my first proper filming day, and I turned up to set, and one of the funniest outtakes is when me and this other lady are throwing watches at each other. One bounces off my head.
It's a silent comedy.
Oh yes, sorry, it's a silent comedy, yeah, based on sort of Harold Lloyd, Charlie Chaplin era, and all we can hear on the outtakes is you desperately trying to say cut, but you can't because you're laughing your head off.
It always amuses me when things unfold in front of your eyes. Like when you watch something, it's never as fun, but if it's like happening right in front of you, and say like, I've been having a conversation with you 2 minutes before about where you're going on holiday, and then all of a sudden you yell action, and then you and this other woman are lobbing stuff at each other. And, it's always a very surreal moment.
Yeah, that was a great day. She was a really good actress.
So we made this collection of films before Almost Enemy, and this exterior day we had the opportunity to bring a few people back, like you said, Gary Keane, and a couple of our in-betweeners, we'll call them, were from 1 minute as well. So it's good to get people back.
And that's why that day it felt so. Remember, there was so many people.
There were tons, weren't there?
Yeah. It was about, like you said, about 30 to 40 people all on set at one time. It was such a stark contrast.
So what was it like normally?
Well, normally I remember working with less than 10 people, be a couple, maybe one makeup person. There'd be you and the crew going off and setting a set up, and then once you were ready, I'd come in because it was usually me acting off me most of the time, with Ivor in the background reading off the script that I had to bounce off. And yet that day, where we were, the house was packed. You couldn't move for people going in and out. Pizzas were everywhere. There was food laid out. People were in different rooms chatting to each other. And the irony was, we were nice and dry in the house. Yet outside, on the one day you needed it to be sunny, and it was drizzling.
Yeah,
and overcast.
So a big part of the film is this continuous weather rainstorm that goes on that plagues Andy's life. And not a single day when we did the interiors, like you said, did it rain. The one day when we went outside, when we needed it to be bone dry and even sunny, if that was at all possible. But no.
I remember people having coats draped over equipment sometimes, I think I saw that.
And there's actually behind the scenes footage of you being patted down with towels because people getting drenched, and we'd shoot in between the showers, but you'd get drenched. It was whatever, we got wet, but we couldn't have you guys looking like you were wet.
Maybe sweaty but not wet. But if you were saving anything, you wanted a crane for outside as well, didn't you? So that didn't panic.
Obviously can't say too much about the crane. That's one of the things we won't spoil, but
well, it's a large wading bird. People know what it's like.
So we wanted this heavy duty crane on set to hoist something up, to keep something aloft, and so this is all kind of like a learning experience. It really wasn't as simple as, okay, I will hire a crane or book a crane. The first thing when you try and hire a crane is they go, okay, well, tell us where you need it and we'll go along and do a land survey because we need to know that the land is stable enough for our crane to be on. And so that was the first problem, and it was cost prohibitive. The amount of time to get it on, we just couldn't work. So we had to come up with an alternative, which we'll talk about another time. But yes, if you ever need a crane, think twice, because it's a hell of a lot more work.
Or at least do your research.
It was just one of those things that never occurred to me. I just thought, okay, well, because I had talked to
Well,
some
you never
people,
know, like you say, to learn an experience. It's
Yeah.
the first time we're doing it. You won't know until you do it the first time.
so there you go. I think even Nigel, he was going from any time he went past a building site with someone with a crane, he went to talk to them. But essentially, the crane operators don't have anything to do with hiring cranes. So
They literally operate.
yeah, that was kind of like a fruitless line of inquiry, really.
Despite the fact that we had the Phelps dressed as policemen
Yeah,
with a police car,
yeah. Which
what
we hired.
happened?
So we were rehearsing the scene. In the scene, you get roughed up, let's say.
Yeah.
That's not strictly true, but
Basically,
we were-
the police come and there's an altercation between me and the police.
in the film.
Yeah.
And so we were rehearsing this. And where we're filming is quite quiet. And we deliberately picked a location that was fairly isolated. The owner of the property had let all the neighbours know what was going on. We did the rehearsal and we're getting ready to film. People were going to be, oh, Phil, the police are here. To put some context on this, I hadn't slept for 36 hours by the time we got onto set because it's just,
Yeah.
trying to get everything ready. And so I looked down the driveway and there was this police car at the end and I was like, oh yeah, the police are like, I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I just thought that they were driving by, seen that there was a police car on the drive,
Yeah.
saw a couple of people dressed as policemen, just were interested to know what was going on.
All right.
I walked down the drive, saw, because there was a big bush at the end of, you could
Yeah.
only see literally one car at the end of the drive. I walked to the end of the drive, there were 4 police cars there,
I didn't know this.
and so they were getting out, and because everyone was looking at me, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't call, what's going on? And so they said, oh, we've had this phone call that this old man's been beaten up at this address. And I was like, oh, okay. And we'd done all the responsible things beforehand,
Yeah.
because you can't hire police cars and police uniforms without informing the local authorities know what you're up to, which is fair enough, and it's a good protocol. And so they had on record that what we were doing, but there was some missed lines of communication their end.
Yes.
And
Missed lines of communication with the neighbours and
yes,
the person. Yeah.
hmm because it, like I said, it was in an isolated area. There weren't any local police stations, so these police cars had come 14-15 minutes away,
Wow.
and they were pissed when I was like, and I gave them, because you get like a number from the police,
That's it.
like some kind of
crime source code, and they can check on it.
yeah. So I gave them that, and so they were satisfied that everything was above board, but they were fuming that they were called out, and they were fuming that the people their end hadn't picked up that what was going on was this incident. So yeah, that was all good fun. But I honestly thought that they'd just turned up, they'd just driven by and out of curiosity wanted to see why there was a police car on the drive. As we mentioned earlier, James and Oliver Phelps were really up for the idea of playing these police colleagues rather than brothers, and part of that was to transform the one of them so that they were fairly unrecognisable. And I'd ordered these prosthetic noses, I'd ordered 3 just to see what worked, and I ordered this mustache hair and what else? Glasses. Well. We'd ordered a whole bunch of stuff, and because there was so much going on, I just left them to it to transform one of the guys, and I have to say that neither one was too bothered. The other one was quite happy to hand it over to the other one and say, "No, you have all the
you have all the kudos,
all the gunk all over your face." And so when I saw him, like, the moustache looked great, and he had a beard, I think, maybe a bit of a goatee. This big prosthetic nose, which we removed that instantly. It just looked so bizarre. Do you remember it?
No, not really.
It's like these gaps down the side. It's like he had these
third nostrils and fourth nostril gills. Nuts. Coming to arrest you like a breeze underwater.
So yeah, we removed the nose. In all honesty, I wasn't sure it was going to work with just the moustache and the glasses. But we ended up putting some pictures online, some really great behind-the-scenes pictures, which were taken by Sean Strong, who did all the posters.
Yeah, big up to Sean.
Nigel got a picture in the local paper, which was cool. I think we've talked about this before, maybe, but the website that we've got, once those pictures went online, the website blew up. Like, we'd have moderate traffic every now and again, but there was just this massive influx.
because of lots of people that are fans of Harry Potter.
Yeah, so as it turned out, it came from all these Harry Potter fan forums and Facebook pages for Harry Potter and the Weasley twins. And there was these long discussions on these forums and these Facebook pages saying, well, I can see James, but where's Oliver?
Where's the other one? Yeah. Why have they only put one of them in?
So I was super chuffed about that, because obviously if the fans of James and Oliver Phelps can't tell that one of them is James or Oliver Phelps, then, nobody else is going to go, oh, he looks very similar to that guy. Yeah. So that was perfect. So big thanks to Tanya Ashworth and Sam Wilson, who did all the makeup. They had a big day. Like, they did all the makeup for the majority of the film, but on the most part they just had you to contend with. On that day they had a lot of things going on, especially trying to make the one guy unrecognisable. So big thanks to them. So I don't know, I think that was it. It was obviously when you're dodging showers your days are cut even shorter, but we just about made it.
Yeah, we did. It was an early morning, late finish, but it was a good day, really good day.
So next time we'll talk about the pickup shots, I think, and the reshoots that we moved on to. Yeah, normally with these episodes we've been having a sort of a theme, haven't we? With the first one talking about like the writing of the film, we talked about indie scripts that we liked.
And Aussie, we did an Aussie.
That's right. Feature. And when we were talking about the casting of the film, we talked about the best casts that we liked.
Yeah.
And we've also been adding reviews into the mix, but it's just so happened that this time around we've got a lot of films that we wanted to review. So instead of a theme, I guess our theme is going to be reviews and recommendations.
Yeah.
So the first film that we're going to talk about, is Jordan Peele's follow-up to his Oscar-winning film Get Out, Us, which has been out for quite a while now. We're a bit late jumping on this one, but we did see it a while ago.
Yeah, this is something we wanted to do, and I'm very glad we did it. There is so much going on in this film.
Yeah, so just to give you a brief rundown.
Okay, it's about a family's serene beach vacation, which turns to chaos when their doppelgangers appear and begin to terrorise them. And as it turns out, it's with, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about...
Yeah, I think it's fair to say this will be a spoiler-filled review. So if you haven't seen it, or if you're particularly averse to spoilers, sorry.
Yeah, do apologise. Switch back on in 2 minutes, where we'll reveal everything. The doppelgangers that come back aren't the only doppelgangers, and as it's revealed, everybody in the US, which is a nice twist on the us, comes out and takes their time trying to find their opposites and kill them.
Yep.
So they can, in effect, take their place in the world or in the US. I mean, it's very telling that one of the lines asked when the doppelganger comes out, the doppelganger queen is, her name's Red. They go, who are you? And they go, we are Americans.
Yeah.
So it's really telling.
But not in any kind of funny or cynical way. There's a very sincere reply.
Yeah. And there are so many things going on that you can take so much from it. I mean, the doppelgangers are dressed in red, which is synonymous with prisoners. So it could be how the middle class see the lower class in America, and that has been ignored.
Specifically red jumpsuits.
Red jumpsuits, yes. They all have scissors, which I think is a very metaphorical thing of cutting the ties that bind them. The scissors are their weapons that they use to kill the people that lived on the top of the earth. These are like the Morlocks and the Eloi in the Time Machine. You get that definite sense.
Unlike Get Out, which definitely had sort of a racial undertone to the plot and the subplots, this one's very much about class, as you say.
Class and social status, yeah, definitely. It's a 2-hour film, but it felt like an hour.
Yeah,
it flew.
Yeah, absolutely enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, the characters are all cleverly sculpted into being such a way, especially the doppelgangers.
Yeah.
The only critique thing I have about it was Jordan Peele's view of men in the film that came very much across like cavemen, almost. I can understand where he's coming from. The women are the central role to this film, and the men, especially the ones on the top of the earth, as we'll call them, the normal men, all behave very childishly, very adolescent.
Yeah. I think there were enough kind of superficial female characters for it not to be female versus male.
Yeah.
Like the white wife was just the most superficial,
Yeah.
and their daughters were just your typical Valley Girl bimbos.
Yeah.
There was nothing particularly
Maybe
intelligent
that's another
about
thing,
them.
superficiality.
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, a lot of the characters did say, "Oh, I could have been a basketball pro, or I could have been a dancer."
Mhm.
And maybe it is. Maybe it's an indictment also on the superficiality of middle class life, and because they live such a superficial life, they ignore the lower and underclasses.
There is an overriding theme, I think, around identity as well, not just status, but certainly identity. When they are talking about things like facelifts and stuff, and the fact that the youngest child wears a mask a lot of the time, both the doppelganger, they're both trying to be something else, either hide away or become something else.
Yeah.
Someone summed up this film perfectly, saying identity is the biggest illusion. There's a lot of identity, there's a lot about illusion. There's an awful lot of bunny rabbits, which of course is synonymous with magic and illusions.
And Alice down the rabbit hole.
Mm. So many layers to this.
So much going on, yeah. It's one of those films that's definitely worth a second look. It's a film with conscience and consequences. It's great.
It certainly is, yeah. A lot of people didn't enjoy it though.
No, I know.
Which was really weird. You said that as we were leaving, someone said they were going to try and get their money back.
Yeah, they. Maybe it's a Marmite horror, but I think this is a film that over time, not only will it have cult status, but I think with a retrospective review from others, they'll realise just how good it is. It's trimmed of all fat, this film, and it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I wasn't a particularly big fan of Get Out. I didn't get the hype around that film. Not that I thought it was a bad film, but like I said, I didn't get the hype around it. And so I guess I possibly didn't have high expectations going into this one.
Yeah.
But any misgivings I had were gone almost instantly. It was such a great film. We'd rate these things out of Kahuna Burgers. How many out of 5?
Out of 5 Kahuna Burgers, because of finding very little wrong with this, it's got to be a 5 for me.
Yeah, 5 for me. I was pleasantly surprised to have loved this film because, like I said, I wasn't expecting much from it, to be honest. 5 from me, 5 from you.
Definitely.
And if you have seen it, whether you liked it or not, let us know what you thought.
Yeah.
So, even though that was a low budget film, it still had a budget of, I think, 20 million. But going from 20 million to a film that was shot in 6 days on a $300 budget, we're going to talk about Good Kids, from director Douglas Rowland 2, Secret of the Ooze, Douglas Rowland II, written by and starring Michael Ridley.
It's about this tight-knit relationship between 2 adolescent brothers, and it's put to the test when secrecy, family infidelity, and the onslaught of adulthood threaten to tear them both apart.
Mm-hmm. For me, any film with a micro budget, filmed in 0 days, I've got an instant interest and an instant admiration for those people. So instant kudos to Doug, who has very kindly given me a lot of info on this film. This is the world that we work in. This is
proper indie.
This is where we come from. This is where we're at. So anyone going, doing the same thing, getting their film out there, huge admiration to you, and so want to check this out. What did you think, Mike?
Well, when you said it was shot for so little in so short a time, it doesn't look it. That's the great thing about it. The acting is excellent. I was very impressed. What I like about this film is how it deals with, it's not something you've seen in films, how people deal with big things like this and how they might react.
Such as? We're talking about the infidelity.
Yeah, the infidelity and just coming across an affair, or how affairs are discovered, and how do people deal with that.
Yeah, there certainly wasn't a typical cliche story. I mean, the way it unravelled, and super impressive to have done it in that time. One of the things that I absolutely loved about it, I think Doug was the cinematographer as well as the director.
Yeah.
and some of the framing and blocking is just superb. You watch some of the shots and just really, really well done, top notch.
Yeah, it's a great simplistic theme, and it's a great family drama.
Yeah, that's good to point out. Actually, it is a family drama. So you mentioned the acting. What? So the person who wrote it is also the main actor in
Ridley.
this.
Yeah, he emotes really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's really good. You can see the internal struggle that's going on with him, and all the different aspects. He's like the new man of the family, and he's just had all these things he's got to try and deal with, and he makes mistakes along the way, and he doesn't realise it. But you go on this journey with him, and you root for him as best you can. Yeah, his acting is superb. And the writing is excellent as well. There's sometimes people have conversations about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they have a very deep conversation, but everything about it comes across as a normal, ordinary family dealing with issues. It's cleverly written and really nicely acted.
But it wasn't sort of overacted either, which would be very easy for this to do, and particularly when you've got such a short shooting schedule, it might take a few takes to get to where you want it to be, but to sort of get those performances spot on almost in that short period of time.
It's almost like he's told them not to act.
Big props to Doug, because it's no mean feat to shoot and direct a film. I mean, one of those jobs is hard enough. So yeah, if you get the chance to check out Good Kids, you can check out on Prime, and you can rent and buy the download from various places. Check out Doug Rowland 2.
Doug Rowland the second.
Doug Rowland the second. I think his Instagram is Douglas_Rowland_II.
Mm-hmm.
Check him out on Instagram, and he's got a YouTube series where he goes, I think it's with his brother, he's gone sailing in his family. If that's another area of interest, check out that series that he's got. But yes, Good Kids. How would you rate it?
For low budget filmmaking, 4 Kahuna burgers.
If you're gonna judge it as a film, let's say 4. I think within the parameters, I don't think a $300 film in a 6-day period could really have been too much better. So in that respect, I'd have to say a 5. If you can check that out, if you've got the means to check it out, please do. And if you've got an indie film, low budget film that you made that you'd like us to check out, please let us know. We'll gladly take a look. As much as we like to talk about the films that we've watched, that we're interested in and found out about ourselves, it's always great to have people recommend stuff to us, or if they've made films of their own that they want us to check out, we'll always check them out and support them as best as we can. Very recently, Maria Ellis of Bradgate Films got in touch via Twitter. That's the one. And she said, would you like to check out our film Ashes? And we said yes, of course.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's a film about a guy whose wife was killed in a fire, devastating fire, which was caused by... he's a teacher, sorry, let's go back to the gentleman whose wife was killed. He was a teacher, but his life has spiralled out of control. He drinks too heavily, and he's racked with guilt and anger. And he learns that the young lad at the time who started the fire and was put away for arson, he's out. He's just been released and is returned to his family home in Scotland. And so this teacher decides to make this journey up to seek revenge for the death of his wife. But at the same time, this young man that's come out of prison is returning to a life that he doesn't recognise anymore. Mm-hmm. He wants no part of anymore. He's not the delinquent he used to be, and he himself is racked with guilt for what he did.
Yep.
And it's about how these characters move on from this new life, from the release, and that's what the ashes refers to. Not just obviously the fire, but the ashes of their old lives.
It's a really nice film that, for the most part, runs sort of like 2 separate movies almost before they
meet.
And that's, to me, that was really nicely done. The way that they balanced those 2 storylines in completely different ways. It was almost like you could have taken those 2 aspects, put those scenes together, and they were would have been different films. The one storyline had its style to the other one. The guy who came out, who was sort of, like you said, rediscovering his life, or rediscovering what life is outside of prison. That had a very different feel. Very, very different feel in terms of the editing, the cinematography, to the other person's side of the film.
It was like order and chaos, wasn't it? His life was very ordered, everything was set out. He would go certain places, meet certain people, rekindle relationships. Yet the what might call him the main protagonist, the teacher, his life was a jumble of flashbacks and forward flashes of what he might do or where he was. You weren't quite sure where he was if you were watching things that were occurring at that moment, or if you were watching a flashback. And every now and again you would see him swig from the bottle, so it's almost like you were drinking from the same bottle and being affected in the same way he was.
Yeah, that side of it was really nicely edited. That's not an easy thing to do, to portray those kind of emotions and feelings in that way, and it seemed coherent in the way that's incoherent, if that makes sense. There's a great skill to pulling that together, and so I really enjoyed and appreciated that.
One thing I noticed about this film as well, unlike what you might see in other films, was the way it stepped back from the violence. Any particular violent scenes in there, they were either alluded to, seen in flashback, or they were from a distance. It was as if it was definitely the film saying this isn't about these particular actions, it's about how these characters get to these positions to perform this violence, what has led them there. This is very character driven, film.
Always nice to get a British film into the mix. Kahuna Burgers
For me, on this one, it's got lots of things going for it, so I'd give it a 4 out of 5 Kahuna Burgers.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. One of the standout things for me was the editing in that film. Not to take anything away from anything else, it was all really good, but such a good, like we've said, juxtaposition of two kind of mindsets, really. Coming out into this new life with your old friends, almost sort of a new life with old figures, and then this person dealing with the grief and
still within his own prison, his own self-contained mindset prison.
Actually, it's Bradgate Films.
Productions.
That's it. Yeah, Bradgate Films, Bradgate Productions on Twitter. So when Maria sent the film over and a bit of information about the film, he also sent a link to the electronic press kit, in which I noticed that both her and the film's writer-director Alan Coulson was involved in a short film about 10 years ago called Gone Fishing, which made a big splash.
Oh, nice.
Pun intended. So I believe it was longlisted for an Oscar way back in the day, and I remember a lot of acclaim around this film and it being a big kind of short film, but I never had the opportunity or good fortune to see it. And Maria Ellis, she was kind enough to, in addition to sending her film Ashes, sent us a copy of Gone Fishing as well for us to check out. So,
well, it's directed and written by Chris Jones. And it's about
Chris Jones, I'll point out, is the Chris Jones of the Guerrilla Filmmakers Handbook. And the Guerrilla Filmmakers Blueprint. It's that Chris Jones,
nice.
which is really why I was aware of it. And for anyone who hasn't checked out the Guerrilla Filmmakers Handbook or Blueprint, which I've got a copy of both, they were both instrumental in planning Almost Enemy. Great resources to have.
Secrets of filmmakers.
So yes, if you get the chance, not most stuff's online these days, but they were back before there was so much information online. Those books were a godsend. So yeah, very aware of Chris Jones. I think everyone's very appreciative of all he's done to kind of help filmmakers. So yeah, this is one of his short films that he made 10 years ago.
Yeah, he made it with a fantastic cast. There's Bill Paterson, Devon Murray, James Wilson, Alison Steadman. It's such a nice little film. It's about the story of a boy and an old man coming to terms with bereavement through their shared love of fishing, and the legend of Goliath, the biggest fish ever caught, although it's never actually seen. It's alluded to. It's great. Because it deals with bereavement, there are moments of sentimentality in it, but they're just moments. in a really, really nice, compact story, dealing with this old man telling a young lad about the story of how he once, when he was a lad, caught this monster fish and the epic journey and things he had to do to create it. I mean, it's straight out to the imagination. It's almost like it influenced Big Fish made by Tim Burton. There's hints of great imagination in there. The journey he went on to create bigger and better things to get this legendary fish, and right at the end, there's this nice little moment where the young lad says, "Well, do fish go to heaven as well?" And he goes, "Well, I'm not quite sure." But then at the end, you see this little bubble of water and this bird disappear under the water as the fish swallows it. And you realise that maybe they do, and heaven is a place where people have gone fishing, and it's like it puts a happy twist on bereavement, and it's really, really feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really nice film.
Yeah, and from a filmmaking perspective, it's just masterfully done. Really, it's just brilliant. It's not your typical short flung on YouTube, done by a handful of people. This is a top-notch production.
Nice
good
effects,
good
nice
production values.
Yeah. For a very nice, very British story.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, that's the only short we've got to throw in the mix. Always nice to get some shorts in there. So yeah, and again, thank you to Maria for sending that to us. It's been a one on the list that I've been wanting to check out for a while. So it's great to finally be able to see that.
Yeah.
And again, if you do want to see what you can do with the likes of the Guerrilla Filmmaker's Handbook, there you go. Then you can make a film like this. How many kahunas on that one?
For me, again, only because I'm not a fan of fishing, but I do like I do like where the story would be.
Yeah.
Without trying to make it sentimental, 4 out of 5 kahuna burgers again.
Yeah, I think 4 out of 5 for me. Yeah, it's just a really well-made, very nice British
tight
film. Yeah,
really good.
Yeah, tight as well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, sometimes even though shorts are short, sometimes they can feel like a bit of a slog.
Yeah.
It certainly flew by. A nice, zippy little short film. Great stuff. And the final film is one that was sent to us, I think, via Instagram, or I might have shown some interest in it via Instagram. But Robert Herrera, the writer-director, very kindly sent us a link to the film to check out.
Palacios.
I
think, Palacios. I think it's going to be a common theme that we can't pronounce this film.
Apologies if we pronounce Palacios.
We'll go with
badly.
Palacios.
We won't mention it beyond this point.
It's actually only mentioned twice in the film.
It is, yeah. So we should have picked up what it was called. But anyway, Mike.
The film Palacios is about a widowed woman who lives on the top of this block of flats, and an inner city teen who spends the 4th of July holiday together. It's another American film. And they create an unlikely bond that forces them to stop ignoring the circumstances that place them there together and just enjoy life with each other.
First thing to note, much like Almost Enemy, there's essentially one central location to this, and also there's just two cast members. One person does appear later on, but essentially there's 2 main cast members.
Yeah, there's 3 technically.
Okay, but there's a dog.
A dog. It is quite a character.
But it's no mean feat to create a film around 2 people, and sometimes those sorts of films can be very talky and quite boring and not very visual. There's nothing like that in this film. It's very engaging, very visually stunning to look at.
Again, it's in the same sort of vein as Good Kids. It's almost like that we're not watching actors here. They're almost like non-actors and just dealing with life. These are 2 people that just happen to meet under certain, just unusual circumstances, and from that they have a relationship that blossoms so much within almost like a 24-hour period.
Yes, it is. It's like a almost a Richard Linklater kind of movie.
there's so much three-dimensional work gone into these characters. They almost say very little, or they talk about very little. They'll talk about the weather, or they'll talk about, are you going to watch fireworks on the 4th of July, or I like this bike. But right down to the dog, all three of them have got such full characters and such full history, which is alluded to quite a few times. You learn about the woman played by Lily Bibb, how she got to where she is, and when she refers to her history of how she ended up where she is. What's distinctive about this film as well, it's black and white.
Yeah, which it sometimes is in low-budget filmmaking is a bit of a cop-out, but it certainly enhances this film no end. It's if ever there was a low-budget film to be in black and white, it's this one. The main characters, one's black, one's white. There's the whole sense of these characters are not black and white characters. You know, there's nothing black and white about their circumstances. Maybe on the top, but certainly underneath, as you say, as you get to know them, they are multi-layered.
There's this wonderful scene with the young lad standing on the rooftop with his arms akimbo, and you've got the fireworks going off, and it's a beautiful looking shot. But of course there's no colour to the fireworks, so the fireworks don't become the distraction. It's the frame itself and everything that's within it that becomes your focus. And it, like you say, there is a strange sort of juxtaposition, or almost ironical juxtaposition, with no colour in the fireworks being shot. It's a very easy film to watch. It's very nice.
Yeah, pretty short as well, just under 80 minutes. Worth checking out. Kudos to all involved in that film. Thank you, Robert Herrera, for sending that through. He produced, directed, the film. Also, I mean, the cinematography was great. David Rocco, no idea what else he's done, but certainly worth checking out. Seems like a small production. I think Robert also edited it as well. We like that kind of thing, a nice tight-knit group of people making a great film, and it is obviously low budget, but there's nothing overtly low budget about it. There's nothing negatively low budget. It's a really good film. I don't think it's the sort of film where even if you had $1 million, it wouldn't be any better. No. Kahuna Burgers for me, again, it's a 4 out of 5 Kahuna Burgers for me. Mainly because, again, it's not my sort of thing. It is almost like a family drama again. So yeah, this is a 4 out of 5 Kahuna Burger for me. This is a 4 out of 5 for me as well. Really well written, directed, acted, edited, really well shot. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I guess we should justify why it's not a 5. It's not a 5 because
the fact we can't pronounce Palacios.
That's true. Okay, we'll minus that. No, it's really good, worth checking out. So that's I believe it's on Prime. If not, check out the Palacios Twitter and Instagram account. Check out Robert T. Herrera. That's it, Mike. I think yes.
Yeah.
Great, so thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, where can they find previous episodes or future episodes, Michael?
They can find them on iTunes, they can find them on SoundCloud, Spotify and YouTube. Just search IndieFilmopolis, that's IndieFilmopolis.
And our socials?
You can find them, IndieFilmopolis, on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and Instagram, it's IndieFilmopolis, and on Twitter, it's just Filmopolis. You can also find links to our film Own Worst Enemy on the Own Worst Enemy movie.com page, and also on Twitter and Facebook. And for yourself, young man, Philip Pugh, also known as /Philm Maker, that's PHILM, Maker on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, there might be an underscore in there. You'll find me. Philip Pugh, Philm Maker. Yeah. You'll find me. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the reviews and our insight into our low budget film.
Thanks for joining us. We're now off to kill our doppelgangers before they kill us.
Alright, I'll grab the scissors.
Fantastic.